We got a wonderful visit in from a great guest who we've spent time with now over the last 6 years or so as Mason County Commissioner. It's Terri Drexler. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
Well, thank you so much for stopping in. I know that your time here as County Commissioner is short. You had your kind of going away parties and passed along some funny shirts to your other fellow commissioners, Schutte and Netherland. 2012 is when you took the helm as county commissioner. Let's go back to then.
Okay.
And kind of what you were thinking about, how you were starting in as county commissioner. And, well, gosh, a lot has changed in the last 6 years.
A lot has changed. So came in, of course, with ideas about how can the county facilitate economic development. And I was all ready to talk about development codes, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, we were hit with a decision by the Personnel Public Employee Relations Commission that there was some unfair labor practice from the previous commission, and then we had to scramble to fix that, and it was just seemed like it was fixing things for the first year and getting things in order. But it does create an opportunity for changing operations, and that then turned into some pretty significant changes that a lot of folk out there don't know. But within the county, we consolidated 5 different departments that each had a director reporting to the commission, consolidated them into one, saved $500,000 as a result. And then we had the issue of public health and building and planning kind of not really working together well, so we went ahead and consolidated those two, which is unusual, and the only one in the state has done that.
Oh, really?
Hired a gentleman, Dave Wyndham, who came in and caught the vision about public health and planning and how your built environment and your health work together. Because so many times, you'll have a permit that'll pass on to the other department, and without the coordination, it got a little difficult. And then we've gone from there. I could go on.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of ups and downs. I know you've had to make some real tough decisions over the years. Let's focus a little bit on the positive right now. What are some of the takeaways that you'll be, as you move on and start the next chapter, that you'll look back fondly of key contracts that were signed or agreements that were made or businesses that came into town, things like that?
Well, I think the things I'm most proud of is the significant investments we made in our public safety and in law enforcement. We went from an $8 million budget to $12 million, hired 8 new deputies. We upped the salaries of the incoming jail corrections officers to help retain, if not recruit, folks in, and did some capital improvements in the jail, about $2 million. There was a very large section of the jail that wasn't being used at all. So we did some retrofitting to be able to hopefully increase capacity. Other issues made that not so, but at least we've got a usable piece of the jail. We did we moved the sheriff's radios from analog to digital, kind of modernizing that.
That was a big stretch.
And that was major there. I think I'm probably most proud of the work we've done in behavioral health, which is what was substance abuse disorder treatment and mental health treatment. And we have significantly increased the service availability here in Mason County. We stood up a couple service providers that probably wouldn't have been able to make it the first year or so to increase the amount of services available here. We created the mobile outreach team to help divert folks from the jails and from the hospital ER when it wasn't quite needed. That has been tremendous, and we've had many of our emergency responders thank us for that. Then
was that something that you had opioids, substance abuse, things like that when you came in 2012? Was that even on your radar?
Not at all. I didn't know the first thing about behavioral health. I was fortunate enough to go to enough conferences and do some of my own research, but conferences, nothing about that data dump into your brain. And of course, I'm doing it from the policy side of things and the financial, can we afford it? And all this is simultaneous to knowing that in 2020, am I showing my age? 2020, there'll be a significant change in how those services are funded. And so all of these improvements, as well as the grant receiving and building of our what we're calling the Mason County Evaluation and Treatment Center, all these were going on at the same time as we're trying to position the behavioral health organization for these changes in 2020 and to be able to still be a significantly helpful factor in these treatment services.
Well, knowing that, and we just heard the reports that y'all were able to find even some additional monies and increase the number of beds again, almost doubling those. So that is, we're right across the street, so we
Yes.
see it all the time. We see the work being done, and that's a really exciting time. So you came in 2012. That's about 4 years after the bottom, kind of the recession happened, but right around the time that we in Mason County were feeling it, as was kind of a ripple effect. How did all that impact your decisions on the bench? I know there was a lot of times where these types of conversations of the slow of the economy and how it was going to impact the county and things like that.
Right. Well, the previous commission had done some significant budget cuts as a result of the recession, and about 100 employees were laid off.
Yeah.
Which surprisingly created quite a fund balance, and so it gave us some freedom and some room to backfill some of those changes, but we wanted to do it smart. And then we waited for the building to come. We saw the housing markets just go crazy everywhere, and we were still trying to sell off the ones that were in foreclosure, and weren't seeing people building. And it's been slow going, and one of the things we really wanted to do was make it possible for the builders. And so we looked at expanding the Belfair sewer to areas that weren't yet served to encourage it, but the cost was just more than we wanted to take on, and then have to figure out how to pay for we didn't want to increase the rates as more than they were. Just figured out we were kind of languishing a bit.
Yeah.
But in the last 3 years, we have seen a steady increase of about 3.5% is what we budget for, and then we would see 4 or 5% increase in sales tax revenue, which to me says there's a booming economy. When people were buying, then there's a booming economy. Then we looked around and go, there's not enough retail to grow that even more. And so how do you grow the retail? Again, it goes back to your infrastructure. So there's the whole cart before the horse issue. And then we were very fortunate to have, and this is still one of those things that I won't be able to work on, but still in the future, the expansion of the sewer line up to the Port of Bremerton.
Yes.
And of course, then all the hookup possibilities along the way. But we did do a rezone in the Belfair area for about 100 unit apartment building, which was another thing I was very proud of the work I did down to get a bill passed in the legislature that would provide a property tax incentive for low and medium income housing, multifamily housing. And we hadn't seen anybody use it yet. We saw 3 developers look to use it, but the market just wasn't strong enough, and the cost to build was just too much to be able to get a return on investment, even with that incentive. So our hopes is that we'll get that used by this next opportunity.
What are some things, maybe one or a few things, that people just do not understand about the role of a county commissioner?
Probably the biggest one is that there are 9 separately elected officials in county government. In a city government, you'll have your council, but everybody else is hired and appointed and work under the direction of the legislative leadership. But with 9 independently elected officials, your ability to influence policy is limited if it's in the realm of, say, the auditor or, say, the judges, Superior Court judges, or even district. And so you can hopefully encourage and support ideas, maybe bring ideas forward, but basically the only way to really impact it is to budget it. And that was the biggest surprise, because you have so many thoughts about what you could do in criminal justice, et cetera, but that really isn't our purview. That's the prosecutor. That's the judges. That was the biggest surprise, and how much how little control you had over certain policies. So you concentrate on the ones you do have: building and planning, and public health, and facilities, and those types of things.
So when's your last day here?
So my official last day is the 31st of December.
Okay.
My last meeting of the county commissioners was Tuesday. We had a very controversial hearing that we had to continue on to the next county commissioner gets to take the vote on.
Anyway, just gonna put that right there for the next group.
Right,
That's fine.
right.
So very cool, and I know you have a little bit more work to do with the BHO and get ready to wrap things up. Well, we do appreciate you. It was a tough 6 years. I mean, if you look overall, the whole county, the whole economy, the whole nation, that went through a lot of changes in 6 years. Things move so fast now, it's hard to think back and focus in on some of those things. But you did a great job, best you could, with the information and all the wherewithal you got in front of you, and couple good other county commissioners still there.
I think that probably the best part about these last 6 years was the innovation and the innovative ideas that we did to solve the issues. I think that we did some really creative things.
Sure.
And
sometimes
got her done.
that happens out of a necessity.
It does.
For some downturns and things like that. You got to get creative.
Which I think it's great for the county that we do have so many incoming newly elected people, because new blood creates new ideas. And so I think that Mason County is poised for some really exciting changes.
Well, I get a sense that we'll still see you around the area.
You bet you will.
Sure, in one sense or another. Terri Drexler, I wish you the best on your adventures, and say hi to Rob for me, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you,
It's
and
good
to
to
Mason
see you.
County. Thank you for the opportunity to serve.